Hoosier Nation. Buckle up. The stakes are rising as Indiana football gears up for another crucial Big Ten showdown. Can the Hoosiers keep their momentum rolling? Or will the Hawkeyes deliver a dose of reality at Kinnick? We'll break down the matchups, the betting lines, and the biggest storylines shaking up college football this week. Plus, inside analysis you won't hear anywhere else. The Hoosier Tailgate starts now.
And picked off up the sideline. Indiana, Asbury, walking them down. Woo! IU, America, they got a football team now.
Hello again, everybody. I'm the coach, Shannon Griffith, and welcome to the Hoosier Tailgate right here on thehoosier.com. Thursday evening, 48 hours away from Indiana and Iowa from Kinnick Stadium. Saturday afternoon at 3:30. Remember, it would be 2:30 Iowa time if you're traveling out there, and it will be seen on Peacock. I misspoke and said CBS last week, and it's Peacock. So just to make sure everybody's on the same page, it's on Peacock, and hopefully some local stations, the NBC stations, pick it up and not have to have everybody jump on the Peacock subscription, which I don't think is that much, but at the same time, one of the biggest games in the Big Ten, if not the country, is happening on Saturday, and it's going to be a dandy of a game out there in Iowa City. Looks like everything's going to be rocking and rolling with that. Remember, tonight as well, we want to thank our affiliates for being a part of the Hoosier Tailgate, one of them being Fanatics. You can head over to Fanatics, get to my bio on Linktree. You can find that Linktree link on my X handle, Hoosier Tailgate, and it will take you right to the Hoosier Tailgate storefront, and you can peruse through that, see if there's something you like. It's got everything from A to Z as it pertains to your game day apparel. And if you do happen to buy something, we appreciate it, and we will take all those a little money and put it back into the show, as we usually do with everything that we try to build here at the tailgate on thehoosier.com. And we appreciate you for that as well. But I want to thank those affiliates out there that are a part of the tailgate. Also, if you're if you are with us tonight, whether it be on YouTube, X, or other platforms, and you can participate in any type of discussion or questions, by all means, put your questions into the chat box, and we will do our best to answer as we go through this study of Iowa's offense and defense. And, you know, the Hawkeyes 3-1, 1-0 in the Big Ten, as they picked up a win last Friday night out in Rutgers in a game that they came from behind in. And 38-28, I do believe the final was. And it was a barn burner of a ball game out there in New Jersey. Some big news hit today. Lewis Moore has won his injunction against the NCAA and will be eligible for the remainder of the 2025 season. That came down today as the judge in Texas ruled in Moore's favor. And I was anticipating that being the case, but you just never know with how things may or may not go and all that from that standpoint. But, you know, it's one of those things. The Rudy's in the house. Thank you, Rudy. And you say 17. Well, it's right now. It's a 7.5, I do believe, on the BetMGM betting line. 48.5 is the over and under. But back to Lewis Moore. This is a big news. It gives the opportunity now for Indiana's defense to settle in. It gives him a chance to worry about playing ball and not having to worry about looking over his shoulder when it comes to his own eligibility. And it's great news for Indiana in that regard. So that is a huge news for Indiana. The other news is that Iowa's top running back, Patterson, who's already eclipsed about 198 yards on the season, averaging 5.8 yards a carry, is out with an ankle injury he suffered last week at Rutgers. So he is out for Saturday's game. And so they will be down a running back, I guess you could say, in some respects, similar to what Indiana has been with BB out now with the knee injury. But Indiana has brought, their depth is shown in that aspect of things and moved a young pup up, and he's done quite well, Kobe Martin. And I'm sure Iowa, who had thought during the preseason that they were very deep in the running back room. So we'll see what all that entails come Saturday with that. Week 5 power rankings are out, and we'll pull that up here real quickly. And let's see here. Whoops. My fingers are too twitchy. But there you can see the power rankings. Indiana has moved up into the 4th position in the Big Ten. Right now, Iowa is at number 10. And Illinois dropped to number 9. They will take on USC on Saturday. And you can see where USC is. And and everyone understands, is that while we were enemies last week with Illinois, we now want them to perform well, because the better they perform, the better win that is for Indiana. And I know that some narratives have already spun that Illinois was a fraud and should never have been in the top 10 in the country, and so forth and so on. So they're already setting the stage to downplay the significant win Indiana had against Illinois on Saturday. But those are narratives that Indiana can't worry about or in that regard, because it matters what you do on the field. But Indiana up to 4 in the power rankings in the Big Ten. There's a lot of them that have moved around this past week. Maryland has moved up as well. Nebraska moved down a little bit. Washington, big win. They're moving up. They play Ohio State this Saturday out at Washington. And right now, the Buckeyes, according to BetMGM, are 8.5-point favorite. And that line has come down some. So there is being some adjustment on the line there. Washington playing good thus far. They got that young quarterback that Indiana faced a year ago. And we'll see what all happens in that regard. But Illinois is going to have to play well against a USC team. Now, the only thing that Illinois has got going for them, and I kind of agree with Coach Riley in this respect, is that that game is an early kick for USC. They played the latest kickoff last Saturday against Michigan State for them, which was an 8:00 kick California time, 11:00 kick Eastern time. And now they go to the Midwest to take on Illinois, and the kick on Saturday for them is 11. And that would be an 8:00 kickoff in the morning for USC, which, I kind of see the discrepancy there from his perspective that, the West Coast teams going to the Midwest, or the East Coast for that matter, being asked to play what is an 8:00 game for them in the morning is a little bit rough in that sense, but you know, it's kind of the way it is when you're scattered across 3 different time zones. But that game for Illinois is an 11 o'clock kick. I do believe that's on the big noon kickoff on Fox, but that should be an interesting ball game. Illinois looking to rebound from their disappointing, I'm sure, performance against Indiana, and they're looking to get back into the thick of things with trying to get a win against a top 25 team in USC and set the stage for the rest of their schedule. But we'll find out on that one. And like I said, Indiana will be playing Iowa on a 3:30 kick on Peacock. This happens to be Iowa's homecoming as well, which I thought was an interesting dynamic, which I can quite understand. Indiana's record there has not been great. They haven't played there since the 2021 season, when they opened up as a number 17 ranked at that time and got beat 34-6, and in quite an embarrassing performance out in Iowa City. Last time Indiana won at Iowa was 2007, where they came away with a 38-20 win. And Indiana's record at Iowa in all contests involved 11-25-2. So there's some history there that Indiana's having to overcome on Saturday. And these are the things that make Kinnick Stadium a difficult place to play, not just for Indiana, but any team or Big Ten team that has to go out to Iowa City and play the Hawkeyes. It's a very tough environment. They are predominantly sold out. The fans are there on top of you. And, they appreciate their football out there and they understand it quite well. So this is going to be a battle-tested, true dogfight on Saturday afternoon for the Hoosiers. And we'll get to some of that here in a second with everything. One of the things that, just looking at some things as well, FPI, which is ESPN's power ranking, Indiana is a 78.4% chance of winning. And there's some others that have them in the 70 percentile of winning as well in a ball game. And we talked about the Bet MGM line right now for Indiana, 7.5. And let's go ahead and take a quick peek here at these schedule on Saturday. As you can see there, that USC is a 6.5-point favorite over Illinois. Rutgers is at Minnesota. Indiana 7.5. UCLA is at Northwestern. That's on Big Ten Network. Ohio State and Washington out west. And Ohio State right now is at 8.5-point favorite. And yes, Washington is a very difficult place to play for any team. As Rudy pointed out in chat, that is very correctly stated. They are, it's just a unique environment there in Seattle to play a college football game. And they're pretty tough at home, but that's a 3:30 game on CBS as well. So that will be occurring at the same time Indiana's playing. Then Oregon is out at Penn State as part of the NBC big game Saturday night. Penn State currently a 3.5-point favorite in what will be a whiteout in Nittany Lion Stadium as they take on the top-tiered Oregon Ducks. And many think, as I do, think maybe they may be the best team in the Big Ten. And in some respects, could argue they may be the best team in the country in terms of their program. They got a quarterback that's playing playing at a high level. Their defense has been outstanding, and they got everything rolling. And this will be an interesting game to gauge where the Penn State is in terms of stacking up against this Oregon Duck team. Drew Aller, the most experienced quarterback probably in the Big Ten. And we'll see if this game he can rise to the occasion and lead the Nittany Lions to a big win. Now, Penn State's got some great receivers on the outside as they went out in the portal and brought them in. And so that will be a good matchup as well, featuring two outstanding offense and defensive units for Oregon and Penn State. Yes. Yeah. Very good. Yeah. There's several good Big Ten games this weekend that will be playing all throughout the day on Saturday. And that's the beauty of college football at this time of year. You're getting into the part of easing into the schedules of the conferences. There's big games in the SEC, Alabama and Georgia. I saw somewhere this is the first time Alabama's played at Georgia in a number of years, which I kind of thought was weird, but evidently that's kind of been the case. So Alabama over the years has escaped having to go in between the hedges there at Georgia. And the other big game in the SEC is Tennessee and LSU, I believe, which is a huge game, being that LSU is viewed by some as kind of the dark horse in the SEC, and some may think they are the best team right now. But those games in the SEC, there's some Big 12 games that are going to be pretty darn good as well. So just a great time of year when we roll into the 1st of October and everything's rolling on all cylinders. You got high school football going, you got the college game into the conference play, and then you add the NFL into the equation. And if you're a football nut like me, well, Saturday and Sunday, you're going to get your fill of everything that you can possibly get your hands on with that aspect of things when it comes to some of the ingredients there with what's happening on Saturday. But we're going to step aside here real quick and get some affiliates in here that are proud sponsors of the Hoosier.com and On 3. And we'll be back right after this message from Academy and
Huddle up, football fans. Tailgate season is here, and nobody gets. You ready for game day like Academy Sports and Outdoors? Swing by your local Academy store or shop online at academy.com to find everything you need, from grills to jerseys and more. Be a watch party legend with gear from top brands like Nike and Under Armour, all at unbeatable prices every day. With 8 Academy stores across Indiana, including our Bloomington location, fun can't lose, and neither can you. Gear up today at Academy Sports and Outdoors.
If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code ON3, and you will get up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. Here's how it works. 1. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using bonus code ON3. 2. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game. 3. You will receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your bet loses. Just make sure you use bonus code ON3 when you sign up. Make this college football season 1 for the history books. Make it legendary. Don't forget, if you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code ON3 and get your $1,500 first bet offer today. See BetMGM.com for terms. 21 plus only.
I want to thank BetMGM for their sponsorship of the Hoosier.com as well as the tailgate, and a pretty good deal with the $1,500. So get over there and take advantage of that from BetMGM and kind of get an idea of that aspect of things. And let's see here. Let's go back to trying to see where I got this at. And that's not it. Oh, here it is. Little game sheet. I hope this is legible. It was a little bit blurry. And this is kind of a game sheet that's put out on gamesheet.com and kind of gives all the vital data that you can take and compare two teams to each other from A to Z. You know, how good are they against the run, their ranking, and things of that magnitude, and how these two match up when it comes to stacking the statistical and analytical data next to one another. And it just kind of gives you an insight of teams. So gamesheet.com, you can take this and get an idea of what is all going on in that world of college football if you're a statistical data and analytical nut. And it's kind of a neat way to look at the game from a different perspective. Analytics has kind of taken over not only college football, but NFL. And you'll see guys on the sideline with a binder that's about yay thick and flipping through it to make determinations on certain situations on what to do or what to expect in different scenarios by an opposing team. So it is a interesting dynamic that you see on Saturdays or Sunday afternoons about guys with the folder or 3-ring binder, and you're always kind of wondering, what is he doing? And he's really flipping through the analytical data to give instantaneously statistical input on certain matters of the game. And it's become a huge part of both college and NFL. And I've even seen it now trickling into the high school ranks. So it's one of those things that not uncommon to see happen in that regard. And we kind of went over the scores here, but let's talk a little bit about the comparisons that we like to do here. And as we go along here, we'll get into some more things, but you can kind of see here that Indiana right now has been on a heater as an offense. I mean, averaging 55 points a game, 300 and some odd yards rushing, and 589 total offense to 338 for the Hawkeyes. You know, Iowa is a predominantly rushing offense, and you can see that based upon their, their run pass deal there. But, they're a pretty good running ball club, and they're 108 yards behind Indiana at this point. So that's an interesting dynamic. The Hoosiers have done great on third down, working a 64% third down success, as they've had great efficiency on those first and second downs, as well as, putting themselves in a position that their third down conversions are really 5 yards or less. And they've done quite well in converting that. At the same time, you can say Iowa's done the same thing, not maybe as at the higher clip that Indiana has, but 52% for Iowa, that is pretty darn good as well. When you look at the red zone scores, pretty identical there. They're both around the 90 percentile. Indiana has a little bit more true touchdowns than Iowa does at almost 80%. Indiana's only given up 3 sacks, as Iowa's given up 8 there, as you can see. And Indiana right now is like a +7 overall, and they've garnered 24 points off of turnovers. Iowa has not turned the ball or taken the ball away this year, I believe, at this point. And maybe they've equaled out because they've had 1 or 2, but they're at a 0 overall. Now, they've garnered 10 points off of turnovers, so they have had some, but they've also had some offensively So that's a statistical category that, kind of stands out to you at this point in time, that Indiana's got to take advantage of it. Those are the things that get lost in the data, but that's some of the hidden statistical aspects of things that you look at when you're trying to evaluate a team and where they're at this time. Defensively speaking, again, pretty similar defensively, both these teams. Iowa's actually better rush defense than Indiana at this point in time, at 61 or 60.8 yards per game. Their pass defense at times has not been maybe on point as it once has, but as you can see there, Indiana 206 yards a game and Iowa 234. Indiana's third down success, man, they're only giving up 19% to opposing offenses on third down. That's just phenomenal. And that's definitely because they're getting teams off schedule on first and second down. And they did that like routine against Illinois, getting them off schedule. And that's going to be an interesting dynamic in that regard. And Iowa's defense is right there at 33% of their success rate, and that's not shabby either. In that respect, probably in the average category when you think about it. Then on top of the red zone scores, I know that it says 100%. Indiana has only had two times that they've led a team inside the red zone all season at this point. 2 times. As you can see there, Iowa has had 11 defenses of the red zone. And that is also shows in their red zone touchdowns of 0% versus 64%. So teams that have gotten inside the red zone on Iowa have done okay. They've been able to put them away. And then we can see the sacks on the year. Iowa's garnered 10 and 15. And then let's see here. Yeah, it doesn't go as a defensive touchdown. It goes as a special teams. And it also counts against the rushing total for that team on a punt block. So it's kind of a weird dynamic when you think about it that way, is that it goes as a special team score, but for the offense that was kicking the ball, that block punt yardage goes negatively against them as a miscellaneous rush. So it takes away from their rush total. So, it's kind of one of those things. They got to put the statistical data somewhere. So they just attach it to the most, I guess, logical area in terms of, when they look at statistics and such. But, Iowa's defense has been always an aggressive unit. That's the way they play. That's their defensive coordinator, Phil Parker. Coached against Phil when I was in the Mid-American Conference. He was at Toledo for a number of years before he went to Iowa there. And, they just get it done as a defense. And they've had great units over the last few years. And when you think about it, their defense is always ranked highly in the Big Ten. They're always going to give themselves a chance at winning because of the way their defense plays. And they do a good job of field position battle. And that has been their MO ever since Ferentz has been there. Good, solid defense, tough as nails on a hard-nosed rushing attack that feeds into ball consuming or long drives in their philosophical approach, and their defense maintaining and securing field position by the way they play. They're aggressive, they're hard-nosed, their front four are always pretty stout for them. And when you start looking at some of the things there at Iowa, outside of the Gronowski and things like that, but that's the thing that you start looking at here is that you get into some of these key players that we're going to be seeing on Saturday. And, right now, here's one of them, Aaron Graves. He's a defensive tackle. He plays her out about on the one technique most of the time, but this cat is got 12 and a half career sacks. He's been a 5-year player. He's 6'5", 295, so he's a big, strong kid in there. This year, right now, he's got 6 solos and 1 sack, but he's a dominant player up there along that front for Iowa. And very strong defensive front. The Gronowski kid is from South Dakota State as he transferred from there this year, won national titles there. Very good in what he was able to do there in terms of leading South Dakota State to the promised land. And you can see right now he's completing about 61% of his passes, not even 500 yards in passing right now. But he's a dual threat quarterback that Indiana's going to have to be very, very disciplined on defense Saturday, because they're facing, quite frankly, a complete opposite than they did last Saturday with Altmaier. And that's one of those things that, that's the one thing that this cat can do, is that he can hurt you with his legs, and, he's got a decent, strong arm on him as well. Williams is the kid that really comes in to step in for Patterson right now. He's averaging about 62 yards a game, 7.2 per attempt, 1 touchdowns. And this kid is a Indiana born and bred. He's out of Lake Central High School in Schererville. So here's a prime example of an Indiana player getting away from the likes of Indiana. He's 5'10", 225, redshirt freshman. He had a great game against Albany, had 122 yards. And he will be the running RB1 come Saturday, and about they'll probably go with a 2-man rotation, similar to what Indiana has done in that regard. Their leading receiver is Sam Phillips, 115 yards. He's a senior, but he transferred in from Chattanooga. So he's a transfer via the portal from a FCS school, but thus far has, done pretty well. Jacob Gill's another receiver that's done well. He's a kid that transferred in from Northwestern, and he averaging about 11.5 yards a catch, 91 yards total, 6 foot, 185 pounds. And, hey, these are guys offensively that have the ability to match up well against you and can go down the field and make plays. And Indiana's going to have to be very good in their coverages and alignments. That's something that they've struggled with this for the first 4 weeks of the season. Even Signetti has alluded to the alignment situations that Indiana has shown on film hasn't always been on point. So that's an area of concern, especially against a team like Iowa, who may decide to go some fast tempo and try to force Indiana into mistakes on the back end. So these are the two guys you got to be aware of, offensively speaking. And then their offensive line is one of the highest, if not the highest graded unit nationally. It is the highest graded unit nationally overall this season thus far. And their offensive line has all been in the high 80s as a group, according to PFF. So you got a strong group of offensive bodies there with an offensive line that has some experience. They're strong. They move well. They like to run the football. They're going to find, and we'll talk about one of their favorite plays they run is the outside zone, and they do it well. And we'll talk about that here in a second. Then jumping over to defense, their number one guy is the Harold kid linebacker, He's their leading tackler, as you can see there. 1 sack on the year, 6 yards of TFL. Moves well. Typical linebacker you would see from Illinois in that regard. He's a kind of a special player when it comes to their defense. And then as well as Max Llewellyn, who was kind of their edge guy. As you can see, he's also got 12 sacks in his career, 6'5", 263. He's their edge guy right now. Already had 4 sacks on the year and 25 yards in TFLs. So he's a very good edge player that Indiana is going to have to be aware of, and their tackles are going to be challenged by this guy, as he's a really, really good player. Now, the other player for them that's really good, and it's special teams related, is the Caden Wetjen, that is a speedster, is also a wide receiver. They use him in a lot of different scenarios there, but he took the opening kickoff against Rutgers back 105 yards to open the game. And they do some things to target him offensively of getting the ball in his hands because of his versatility and speed. And he's done a great job, and he's just not a kickoff returner. He's a punt returner too, and he's done quite well at that. So he is a huge threat in special teams. So in that regard, so it's going to be a good one. Todd, appreciate you. Thanks so much, and have a good night's sleep, and we'll have it up for you so you can listen to it. But appreciate you coming on and saying hello, and we always appreciate the acknowledgement for that. So have a good evening, and we'll have it up for you so you can pick it up on the way to work. But yeah, so they've got some really good football players. They always have, and Kurt Ferentz has done a great job with this football team and has for a number of years. And that's the one thing that you can say about Iowa, is that you are going to get a fundamentally sound and defense and offense rooted in the fundamentals of play, whether it be defensive or offensive, and a team that rarely makes mistakes. They may not have the fastest guys on the field at times, but they're going to have guys that can beat you by just out techniquing you. And sometimes the technique is what wins the day over somebody's speed or quickness. So that's Iowa. I mean, that's what they do, and that's where they are tough to defend at home. Their fans are very well and attentive to that, and they provide them a ton of energy in that stadium, and will be on Saturday. Now, if you've never been to Kinnick Stadium out in Iowa City, and if you're going this Saturday, and you will be able to partake in the third quarter hand wave to the children's hospital that sits catacorner to the stadium there, and their kids that are there that are up against hard times, they have the third quarter wave, and it's something that has really been a huge spotlight for college football and what Iowa has done there, acknowledging those kids, and those kids being able to watch a college football game from the hospital where they're up against, the biggest challenges that anyone can think of. So if you're going out there, it'll be quite a touching experience in that regard. It's going to be an interesting day with everything from A to Z there. So, but again, Iowa is a team that you got to be on point with everything that you do, whether it's offense, whether it's defense, special teams, and all that, because this group of players are very good in what they do. And they are a team that right now They stumbled against Iowa State, and it wasn't a big stumble, but Iowa State was able to kind of beat them by, making the fewest mistakes in that regard. But that was their one stumble, and they had a huge road win at Rutgers. That was an impressive win when you think about it, because Rutgers is another one of those places that it's not always easy to go play at. So let's jump over here into the coach's video room, talk a little bit about what we've got here with this football team, and kind of go from here. This is them using WhatGen, which is this cat right here, 21. And, this is them just using him on a speed sweep and trying to get him to the outside, which they do. But Iowa State's defense is really good. This linebacker here, or this safety guy, this cat right here, he does a great job of fighting through the block and making the tackle. And you got to match physicality with physicality. That's just the way it is with Iowa. You got to be as physical with them. Again, they'll use all types of formations. They'll use 2 tight ends. They'll use 1. They'll use no. Here's Gronowski standing in the pocket. You can see he's kind of a big body guy back there. And he does, he's tough to get down. Here's one where he really is a underthrown ball and does a great job of coverage there to have the incomplete in that regard. Again, here they are with just what they like to do, kind of an outside zone concept. They got to be careful because he will pull it and read that guy when this guy's not blocking him, and he's a threat to carry the football. And they do mix the RPO game in that regard. So you really got to be conscious of that aspect of things. And you can kind of see their offensive line a little more stouter than what Illinois was last week in that regard. And I thought Iowa State did a great job in defending them in their game on Saturday. They will empty the backfield, go ghost in rare situations. This is a 3rd and medium. Iowa State's running a pressure package here, and this is just pure man-to-man. And you can see he's got a pretty quick delivery, but it's hard to get home on him, when they're running those type of routes on 3rd and 5, where they're just running a quick square out, and he can get rid of it and have a good play of getting the ball in and out of his hands. Here's an RPO. They're going to run kind of what they call their tackle wrap. And essentially what this guy's doing, he's the guy that's pulling. Gronowski's reading this guy right here. And as soon as he sees them come, they're running what Indiana runs. And this is something that's hurt them. I mean, this is a big play. This is the type of play that Surratt makes famous, and Omar Cooper. So that's, again, their RPO game. They do have it. You got to have it as a team that runs the football as much as they do. When you look at them offensively, and you can kind of see him right there eyeballing that guy coming off the edge. He knows nobody's got him, and pretty darn good throw there. I don't know how strong an arm he has. He's got a good arm, but I don't know how strong of arm he has. That's the one thing I just can't get a feel for too much. Here he is right here running a quarterback read. They're bringing pressure here, kind of a run specific defense on 1st and 10. But this cat here, he's got to get up the field. He's got to be here first, and, in that regard, and then go here. But he collapses right off the bat, and this is what happens. And you get a 6'5", 230 some odd pound guy out in space, and he's going to get it in that regard. Let's see here, Brian. Yeah, I think they've got decent speed. I'm not sure they don't have great speed. They have struggled blocking on the perimeter in that regard. So that, again, some of them are young guys, but you can see here on this play example right here of this defensive end coming off the edge, and he's not being disciplined, and he pulls it right out, and away he goes, and there's nobody left on the outside there, and it's 20, 30 yards down the field. Campbell there was yelling for a penalty. This is what they like to do too. They like to change the launch point, get him out on the perimeter. Iowa State's kind of playing a too deep look there, and they do a pretty decent job in coverage. Really, I don't see anybody open. And again, he does a good job of taking the next option. He decides to dump it. And that's where you got to be disciplined on defense with a guy like this. You got to be disciplined. You can't, DBs have got to stay in coverage, and you just can't get yourself out of whack with this guy, or you're going to have some troubles with him. So that's the one thing that I would say with Indiana's got to be careful of is don't get out of coverage 2 seconds. I want to see something else here real quick. I think this is, nope. Little quick pitch on the outside there. Oh, darn it. I had it in here, but maybe I messed it up. Oh, here it is. This is what they like to run, this outside zone. This is one of them here where they do a pretty good job. And what they're trying to do is, you watch the back here, they're really trying to get you to overrun this. This back's course is, of course, it's right in this direction, of course. But what he's looking to do is bend it back up inside. And they do it pretty darn good, as you can see him ripping it up in there. And you'll get a better idea on the end zone shot of what they're liking to run here. This is kind of their jumbo package. 2 tight ends are in the game. And you'll watch them how they block this, and you can see that they're really trying to stretch you to the sidelines with the way they block it. And you can see they're really reaching on that first step. And you can see him, he's a little bit too far, but you can see where they'd like to hit it back in this area right here. You got a pretty good run lane right there. But this is a play they run quite well. It's their stretch play. And I see one more time here. I think this is another one where they do it again. 2 tight ends. Boom. There's the seam. You can see it right there. So they're in outside zone while you're thinking, well, outside zone, coach, that means you want to get the ball to the outside. Well, it's almost in some cases an illusion. It's outside zone principles with an inside zone mentality, because you're really trying to hit this up in the A gaps. And when it's ran right like they do there, you can gash people with it. It's a very good run play. NFL teams run it quite effectively. And their coordinator, Tim Lester, was at the Green Bay Packers before he came here. He was a player at Western Michigan, was the head coach at Western Michigan as well. But you can see again here, really reaching. They're really reaching this. And you can see how they're trying to take this wide receiver and get him all the way here to that guy, because they know where it's going to hit. There's the seam. He actually hits it a little bit late. But this is the one thing that Indiana has to be careful of, is getting out of their gaps and boom, and that, hitting back inside there. So again, you got to be very conscious of your run lanes and zones. Sam, appreciate you chiming in. Yeah, that's definitely one of their bread and butter plays. They do it quite well. And, like I said, it's an NFL mentality play because of the NFL runs it quite effectively. Let's jump over to their defense here and take a look at the Hawkeye defense. And we'll show just some quick clips here of what they like to do from a defensive standpoint. Whoops. They like to play man coverage. This is kind of what we call a nub set, tight end backside, and then 3 to receivers to the field. And you're kind of getting a outside shoulder alignment on them. And they'll mix their coverages well with what they do as a defense. And you can see right now, they're kind of in a cover 4 mentality at times, but what they like to do as soon as they read run, they get these guys downhill quick into the rush lanes because they want them up in there at the line of scrimmage trying to get that 8th, 9th guy at the point of attack. And they do it effectively with what they do offensively. I'm not going to sit here and say that they're a really big defensive blitz team. I don't think that is their signature, but they'll mix in different coverages here. They're bringing kind of what looks like a blitz here, but I'll show you what they're doing here based upon the way they hang up their defense. And you can see how this guy's getting downhill. This guy should not be on the outside shoulder because he has no center field help. So that's an expose that you're going to look at and say, hey, we got to throw the post off of a play action here. But I'll get to the end zone on this, and you'll see what I mean by what they're doing discipline-wise. Okay. All right. What they're doing here is they're taking their front and they're moving it, and they're pretty active at it. Well, this guy, because he's slipping inside, this linebacker now has to be the scrape player over the top for the quarterback. So you kind of get that 2-man committed there with it, and you'll see it here when the ball snapped. He's got that gap, so he's coming right now. You can see the Harold 43, he's got the A gap. So you can kind of see these guys are very good in their gap assignments. B gap, A gap, C gap, D gap, B, the weak B, weak C, and a guy out here for the D. So, I mean, you can tell that this is a very well-oiled machine when it comes to defensive play. Here they show what looks like it's going to be man, and they're rolling to basically cover 4, where they're playing quarters to the field and quarters to the boundary. But they'll throw in some Tampa 2 and other things. Let's get to their game against Rutgers here, because I think there's some things here. Rutgers, like I said, took the opening kickoff back, and Iowa, and then Rutgers came right out and went right back down the field and scored on them. And you can see that, there's 95, big kid, strong kid, but Rutgers did a great job of throwing the ball against them on Saturday or last Friday night. And, they just couldn't hold on to the game, and Iowa was able to come back on them. This is a great throw, taking advantage of what they're playing here. TV doesn't show it all that great, but with that squeezed alignment, it forces them into basically to soften this corner. He's going to black up and supposed to take away the deep and drive the flat, and he kind of gets hung in no man's land here, and the quarterback throws it over the top of his head in front of the safety for a big, big throw. In that regard, Sam, yeah, that's the Phil Parker I know. He's a guy that is going to play more base defense than anything, and mostly if he's going to blitz, it's probably going to be some type of zone blitz at times, but he'll zero it up and come after you and play man free. I mean, he does a great job. He's a really good coach. I've always been impressed with him when I was coaching against him when he was at Toledo. And, you know, he's a guy that you can have a lot of respect for. Whoops. Let's see. Go to the next play there. Again, you can kind of see their alignment here. You get the impression here. Okay, quarterback looks at this. You get a high safety, a low safety. You say, okay, this may be man, but the reality of it, it's not. You got their eyes at the quarterback in some respects. Outside leverage. So they're probably going to some type of zone here on 1st and 10. And they're playing like a loose cover 3 in some respects. And down here at the bottom, they're playing a hard cover 2, where they're playing half down here at the boundary, and they're playing kind of a 3 deep at the top. And they do a good job of, you know, knowing their assignments. Okay. Sometimes these games, I can't get them trimmed down enough here, but here's a 3rd down and 6. All right. Definitely 1 high now. So we know you're going to probably be in a man-free mentality, and you can see how they align inside leverage. So now the quarterback's thinking, okay, it's 3rd and 6. What Parker's trying to make you do here is throw 50-50 ball. He's not going to give you that easy 5-yard play. So what he's going to do is man you up and force you to throw it deep. And what he does here, they end up throwing an inside fade to number 2, and they beat number 6 because I don't think their secondary has great speed, and their defensive and their linebackers too are maybe not as great as they had in the past, but pretty darn good. Let me see here. Yeah. Right. Yeah, I can see that. Definitely, Sam. Wish we all had access to 22 film. So do I. I get it sometimes, but I don't get it all the time. But I always get rung up by Veritone for thinking I'm copyright infringement, which they can, you know what, me. But anyway, here's on the goal line. Another great run here by Rutgers getting after it. But again, sound defense, a very sound defense in what they do at Iowa. Always sound. He can play with lesser talent because he's going to make sure their talent matches what they can do on the field. And he grooms his play calling on what his 11 guys on the field can do and do well. And sometimes that means maybe not as blitz as much. Maybe we play a little more zone blitz mentality. Maybe we do this, maybe we do that. And that's what makes Phil Parker, and has been, a really good defensive coordinator for the number of years he's been in Iowa City, which seems like as many as Ferentz has. So there's that. I want to show one more here. Let's see, where is it? Here is the opening kickoff of the game last Friday night. And this is Wetjen. And you can watch what he does here. Five yards deep. Man, this is a very simple kickoff return. This is what we call tag 3 right. So they're double teaming number 3 and they're kicking out 4 and 5, and you got the lead back leading through. And when you get the lane that they do, and I'll show you here, this kid is going to make you pay. He's fast. He's quick. I love him. I mean, he's one of those guys, he loves football, and he can change the Momo real quick. But here's the end zone aspect of it. Like I was saying, you can already see that Iowa has done well by capping all this group of guys. Whoops, sorry about that. They've already capped it, and these guys from there over have no prayer. And you've got a hat on a hat, and he's right through there for the kick. It's over. It's ball game over because they've got him pinned to the ground, and his speed, you're not going to catch him. He's just not going to catch the kid. He's a good one. And I like him because he's a hard-nosed type of kid, and I like those type of bodies out there. And let me see here. I got something down here I forgot. Let's put this away. Let's look at Kinnick from the air. Hospital there. Beautiful stadium. They've done, I mean, it's a great little venue. And there's the hospital there. So it's a neat environment. Now, when I look at this ball game, what does Indiana have to do to get a win? I've said it. Indiana's success in Iowa City has not been good at all. 2021, when they were ranked 17th, they got hammered 34-6. They haven't won in Iowa since 2007, and they're 11-25-2 overall in Iowa City. So this is a monumental task for them. And that's going to be definitely a challenge for them. Well, yeah, I mean, I can guarantee you they saw what they saw on film, and they did a heck of a job. And like I said, in the game of football, when I was coaching at the collegiate level, we called that tag 3 right. And they ran it to perfection, as we saw there. And with a returner like him, man, oh man, you get the wall, see ya. Same thing on punt return. He gets to the wall or whatever they're trying to set up, he'll make you pay. But that's what Indiana's Boyd has done as well in a couple of his punt returns this year. The one he took back for 91 yards, he got to the wall, and it was 88 out the gate. Well, let's look quickly here at what it's going to take. For Indiana, offensively speaking, got to stay on schedule, avoid negative plays. There's no question that's going to be a high priority for Indiana on Saturday. Stay on schedule, which they've done pretty well at this time with their offense, and avoid the big negative play. And thus far, they've done well with all that. Exploit Iowa's limited pass defense. What I'm talking there is they're limited in the back end, and you've got to attack it. You know, you got to use the RPOs. You got to play action. You got to get crossers to confuse man coverage, things that challenge them in the secondary and put the ball in the hands of those guys outside, like Cooper, like Surratt, EJ Williams, or even Boyd, you name it. But attack it in that way. Again, Indiana, play to your strength. The running game attack has been good. Iowa's front four, they're good. And Indiana is the team that's rushing the ball well now. They've been physical at the point of attack. It's going to take another physical battle there to establish a run game. But they got the backs to do it with Black and Hemby. And then if they need, they can bring in Martin, the young redshirt freshman, and put him in there because he's the guy that's got a ton of speed. So again, play to your strengths, pace and tempo. I like to see Indiana up tempo Iowa a little bit, get them in a, kind of a no huddle mentality and, get them moving. And Indiana right now really hasn't shown that. They've been more line it, huddle it up, call the play. But I like to see him push the tempo a little bit against Iowa and make them guess a little bit. Again, aggressive and targeted play calling. I thought Coach Shannon did a great job last week of being aggressive with these calls, but at the same time, targeting players, having plays that target players. How am I going to get the ball to Surratt, Cooper? How am I going to get the ball to Hemby besides just handing it off? And you saw some of the passes that they did last week against Illinois where he was dumping it. He dumped it out to Hemby at times. They got the ball to Surratt at times. EJ, just, again, very well done. And, of course, no turnovers, as we know, as being a vitally important facet of offensive football. So it's going to be a game that's going to be a good battle up front. I do think that it's going to be a good battle against O-line, D-line battle. And we have said before the season started that Indiana's offensive line is better than it was a year ago. They got the additional of Coogan. They got Benson back, who went to Colorado, came back, and they've got depth. So they can, they can throw some bodies out there if they need to, but that's where the game on Saturday is going to be an interesting watch, is that battle there. Then defensively speaking, whoops, what did I do here? Forgot my defense. On the defensive side of the equation, you've got to be able to win the first down battle. Again, stop Iowa's running game. Be aware of the stretch play. Be aware of the quarterback runs. Be disciplined versus the quarterback scrambles and runs. Staying in coverage. Then get them into that off schedule of 3rd and long. Get pressure on them and then win the money down. Indiana has been very good at that for the first 4 weeks of the season, is getting offenses off schedule, being able to pressure them, and then being able to win the 3rd down battle. Can't have secondary alignment issues. This is a big point Signetti brought up, and he says you look at a team and you blow them out 63-10, and you turn on the film and you see where there are some things that you put on tape that's got to be corrected, because there's an offensive coordinator who's going to test you and see if you made those corrections. So when you make a mistake, you better get it corrected, because the OC that you're coming up against, he's going to test you to see if you've got that corrected. Alignment issues has been a key component that Indiana has struggled with through the first 3 or 4 weeks of the season in their secondary. Again, I think Coach Haynes, in his style, he likes to be attacking, he likes to be aggressive. He's going to find the mismatches and exploit it. He did against Iowa. He'll find it against, Illinois, and he'll look for it against Iowa. But he's got to be aggressive, and they've got to attack this run game, and then try to force Illinois into being a one-dimensional football Iowa to be a one-dimensional team, and you do that by getting them off schedule, and then that way you can pin your ears back and come after them. And you force Gronowski into making poor throws or poor decisions and trying to find ways to get the ball turnovers. And doing that in that way is, getting them off schedule and one-dimensional. The next thing that it's going to be vitally important on Saturday is this phase of the game. Special teams is going to be critical, because it's going to be who's going to win the field position battle, who's going to set up their offense with the shorter field, and who's going to give the defense a long field to defend. The team that does that the best, probably going to win Saturday. Team that scores or sets up a score, again, is probably going to win Saturday. Indiana's been very good at that. Iowa has been good at it too with Wetjen through the years. He did it on last Friday. He had an opening kickoff return and they won the game. So those are the things that can be backbreakers to any team when you give up scores in your special teams by either, returning a punt, blocking a punt, picking up for a score like Indiana has for the first 4 weeks, because they've done a little bit of everything. When they hit in yardage battle, that's a key component. You got to get the return battle, and we'll see who takes the chances on the returns in terms of punt returns and such. We'll see if Boyd tries to take advantage of maybe coverage mistakes by Iowa, and Indiana's going to have to be on point with Wetjen. You just can't let this cat get out in space and going, because if he does, he's gone. And you've got to be able to stay in your lanes. And you got to cover on every kick. And because even if it's 5 yards deep in the end zone, this cat will return it. I mean, he's not afraid to take it out and go. And that's the one thing that's pretty impressive by the kid, is that he's got the cojones to try to take something and make something happen. And that's what I like about him, because he's that way. So it's going to be a 4-quarter battle. There's no question in it. And I have a tremendous amount of respect for Kurt Ferentz. I know Tim Lester and Phil Parker both. I've coached against them. I've chalk talk with Tim Lester at times in our past, and Timmy's a very good offensive coordinator, and he does well with the quarterbacks, and he'll have their offense ready to go, and he'll have Gronowski prepared from A to Z for what Indiana's going to throw at him on Saturday. So tremendous amount of respect all around for Iowa. And like I said, Phil Parker is one of the best defensive coordinators out there. His defenses have proven it year in, year out. And you're going to have to earn your win and your yardage against Phil Parker's defense. That's for sure. So this is going to be a dynamite game. Sam, I appreciate you coming in. I can say that you're an Iowa fan, but we have no bias here. We like any and all that love football. So appreciate you stepping in, and that is correct. They're better and they're up front. And like I said, because of who they got, especially at center at Coogan. It's one of those things that, but I appreciate you coming by, saying hi. And again, we appreciate anyone who loves the game of ball and joins us here on Thursday nights or Monday nights. But again, if you're going out to Iowa City, safe travels, be safe out there, and enjoy the atmosphere. Let's see what happens on Saturday. Can Indiana continue on this 3-game gauntlet, make another statement in Iowa City, and further propel them up in the eyes of those that still have doubt about this football team? They're good. They can go on the road and be just as effective as they are at home. But this game will test some of the problems that Indiana's had in the past at loud stadiums, and Kinnick Stadium is one of them. And you're going to be it's going to be a treat to be in the stands if you're there Saturday to witness this ball game in Iowa City. Sam, I appreciate that, partner, and come by anytime. But again, I thank you for joining me here this evening. I've rattled along enough on this evening, but this was a game that I kind of been waiting for because of this matchup is going to be on Saturday, because you got two wily veterans as head coach, Cignetti and Kurt Ferentz. You've got the dean of the coaches in the Big Ten and the young whippersnapper coming up through the ranks in his second season in the Big Ten. So we're in for a treat Saturday. Remember, catch me Monday as we go back and look at this ball game and talk about the good, bad, and ugly. But for now, I'm the coach, Shannon Griffith. You've been watching the Hoosier Football Tailgate here on thehoosier.com. Good night, everybody.
Yeah.